Keller from the Deep North here. Welcome to the inaugural edition of my video blog. People often ask me how I write my songs and where I find these odd, quirky bits of Minnesota history. I figured I can give you some insights, some background, and a little bit of what inspires me. If you want the whole story, I hope you'll come to a show. What I'll do here is give you some setup, some deep background, and pull the curtain aside just a little bit. The story today comes from both the Pine County History Museum in Ascove, Minnesota, and a book entitled Courage in a Rugged Land, Bruno, Minnesota, Old Settlers' Memories and Newspaper Stories by Edna Bjorkman, Robert David Olson, and published in 2005 by the North Star Press. As you can see, today's theme is lumberjacks. To understand the story, you need to understand that lumberjacking was a rough, brutal life. The lumberjacks had a saying, "The pines claimed as sweet a day." You want to know how dangerous? Well, first, the work occurred during winter. Temperatures could drop to 30, 40 degrees below zero, maybe worse. The wind and the cold could drive a blizzard so bad a man could get lost and die 20 feet away from his bunk. But winter made the camps possible. The ground in the forest and the bog was too soft otherwise. In fact, they built ice roads and hauled the lumber out by horse and oxen-drawn sled where necessary. Otherwise, they skidded the logs out using horses, oxen, and chains. Now, a sled or skid loaded with tons of wood risked tipping or running out of control. Many a lumberjack was maimed or killed by a load of unbalanced timber. Camps that drove timber to market on rivers used river pigs to guide the timber down the roaring spring flood. These men literally walked on the rolling logs and kept them from jamming up using big long poles with hooks on the end called peaveys. Drowning and hypothermia took many lives each and every year. Cutting timber itself was no safe business. Many lumberjacks took injury from saws, axes, or falling trees. Big trees could weigh 2,000 to 4,000 pounds. And with no doctors in camp and no safety regulations protecting the men, they took their lives into their hands each and every trip into the forest. Disease and malnutrition took a toll. Lumberjacks lived in log bunks, dozens of them at a time in one building. The camps ran with lice and vermin. Though the cookie was considered the most important camp employee and usually kept a full kitchen, a long winter or lack of resupply could jeopardize nutrition. Poorly washed dinner plates could lay up a whole camp with dysentery for a week or more. Sounds fun, huh? Well, those guys reveled in it. They wore it like a badge of honor. The rougher, the tougher, the badder, they loved it. But the Doyle brothers constituted another unique danger. The story took place in what is now Bruno, Minnesota, about 20 miles northeast of Sandstone. Back then, 1888, it was still 3 years away from having its first name, Mansfield Station, named because it hugged the railroad built in 1869 that connected St. Paul with Duluth and Superior. Wasn't much there. A few log shacks, a lot of virgin timber as far as you could see. No law, no towns, no farms. Hiram Walsh, born in New Brunswick, Canada in 1869, came to Stillwater at the age of 16 to work in a lumber camp. In 1888, he headed up the trail and stopped at what was to be Mansfield Station. There he ran smack into the Doyle brothers. Now, somewhere in the late 1880s, the Doyle brothers, TJ, Jack, and Mike, set up some cabins near the track with their man Blackjack Dawson. They sold food, hard liquor, and rough lodgings to lumberjacks heading out to the camps or heading back to civilization. When they didn't make enough money from that, they used other means to ensure a steady income. Now, lumberjacks came from every walk of life. Farmers, their harvest reaped, might work the pines over the winter to make a little extra money. Single men came hoping to earn a stake or to buy a family farm. Loners, immigrants, drunkards, all came to work from the pines. Now, some came hoping to better themselves. Some came, the spreeing lumberjacks, for a fat paycheck that they could blow on a drunken carouse. Now, the main points for the Doyle brothers were that these men were alone, they had a little money, they wanted to drink, and the law was a very long ways away. Hiram Walsh got off that train with a few other jacks in July of 1888. They'd signed up with the Barter and Tozer firm, which was building a camp about 20 miles east of Bruno. Hiram and the others were to build the road out to the camp, and then they were going to build the camp itself before it started felling timber that winter. Across the track, they decided to get a bite or a drink from the log shacks nearby, owned by the Doyle brothers. They pounded on the door. They were greeted by Jimmy Doyle, pointing a loaded revolver at his head. Shaking, they backed up, and they never went back in. And it was only later that they found out exactly what went on inside and about the grisly secrets hidden in one of the other shacks. Well, the pines, they say, claim a sweeter day. There's a million ways to die. Crushed by a skid, sliced by a raker, or a PVA. Are you scared of the cold? The drives the snow, ain't scared to run away out to them. But I shiver like a bird when I catch a word about the Doyles, the Blackjack Dawson. Well, 3 little drops in the bottom of your glass, they're gonna make you a little bit tight. 3 little drops in the bottom of your glass, and the room starts spinning and your legs ain't right. 3 little drops in the bottom of your glass, they're gonna reach the end of your story. 3 little drops in the bottom of your glass, they're gonna carry you straight to glory. That's a little bit of it. You can check me out on www.deepnorth.com, deepnorthmn.com, excuse me. I've got CDs for sale, or you could catch another video. And I look forward to the next edition. Thanks for joining me.